Nothing.
What's up with Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within? I don't know, but I've hit the record button.
Whoa.
Well, shit, I guess I'll also hit the record button.
I'll hit the record and say that Final Fantasy Spirits Within is an okay movie.
Now, listeners, you may be wondering, why are we talking about Final Fantasy The Spirits Within? It's through the same studio created a segment for The Animatrix, which we were also talking about, and that is undoubtedly a better thing to watch than Final Fantasy The Spirits Within.
Phenomenal thing. I mean, the Final Fantasy Spirits Within is a totally okay movie.
I feel like I've heard very much to the contrary of that, Bridget.
I feel like the thing I've heard about is that it's boring.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's okay.
You need to stop using okay to mean to translate to boring, because like that for me, okay means I was mildly entertained at points in it.
And you need to define bad things too, so there's too much.
That's not okay! 2 stars is not okay!
2 stars is bad, but it could have been
numerically
worse.
it's below average.
Like 2.5 is by average a failing grade.
Yeah.
So like
it's okay.
It's 2 stars is not even like an okay shrug. 2 stars is like, there's things in
it's
it.
Like, I guess it's okay.
I mean, there is things in it. It's like amusing to see the CG, but like that's about.
But yeah, I feel like the thing about movies that are like dubbed boring at the time, or like, you know, whatever, like, you know,
it's no Battlefield Earth.
You go back to like 20 years later, and it's just like, oh, there's like a little conceptual nugget in here that's delicious. I can gnaw on like a sick little rodent freak.
I'd rather watch that movie than Advent Children again.
Well, here's the thing. 2 stars is for like a disposable Adam Sandler film, and you say 1 star for like Mein Kampf because that exists. It's not Mein Kampf. That's the book. What's the Triumph of the Will? You would say like, okay, this is a 1 star. I wish I could give it none. You know, half star if you have the option, depending on the rating platform. But that's why 1 star exists, because there's a lot of room for bad. It's just that there's always worse. Yeah. None of that is good. It's all within the like the Sandler to Hitler pipeline is all pretty bad. And that's where like 2.5 to no stars exist.
Anyway,
stars.
It's just like
let's go ahead and get.
Can you list off the Adam Sandler movies you think are okay?
What we view's connected by cast or crew, deciding the next film. That's the gist. Put it on the list.
They're not okay. That's what I'm saying. They're all bad. That's the argument I'm making.
The Second Renaissance.
Is that
that's a hell of a thing. That's a great all-time piece of animation for my money. Can't beat it.
I don't know that one.
I don't even know where we go from here.
I don't either. Good night, everybody. No.
Like, this is already going to be a weird episode because I'm going to be transparent with you girls. I didn't take any notes for this movie.
Oh, yeah. I never take notes.
Really?
Yes. I wrote some stuff down post hoc to kind of like have some idea, to, you know, remember some thoughts I had about it, but I don't take notes in the moment.
Wow, I took the most notes of anything I've ever really went through, honestly. I did research on
That's
this.
because I tend to not watch them multiple times, so I just try to remember.
I took a lot of notes for X.
What?
Yeah. For X. Remember X? No?
I took no notes for that because I didn't know what to say. Brought to you by Coca-Cola. That's all I got.
If anything, I might have more to say about the wrestling pay-per-view that I just watched than Triplets of Belleville.
Have an anime and smile, bitch. But yeah, no, it's you know, where are you going?
Where are you going?
Just leave it.
Just like 1/4 of the cast just like got up and walked out. All right.
Da, 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 da.
Yeah, that is literally where the break for the opening theme will go.
Yeah.
Is us reacting to Bridget walking away.
All right, let me look up how to pronounce this director's name so I can be ready to go.
Sylvain Chomet,
Chomet?
probably, if I had to guess.
Chomet. I'll say Chomet. Sylvain Chomet.
Just find the Google, like...
Yeah. Copy.
Never gives us a warning, just will get up and start walking away.
What
We didn't even get to do like an introduction of ourselves, and she just left.
She's just gone. Yeah. I was just like, okay.
Okay, she left the podcast. It's just us now. We're safe. Okay, let me put this in
Oh,
here.
don't say that.
She's
That's
not
mean.
here. Pronunciation.
I enjoyed all of Bridget's movies that she's recommended more than this movie. So, like, guys...
Wow. That's fascinating.
Oh, wow. We're going to have some wild...
We are.
Never mind. This podcast is going to be a juicy one,
This is
I
going to be
guess.
fun.
Like,
I didn't realize
maybe
it was that
X was
bad
more
for ya.
tedious, but, like, I was cold on this one.
Not here for cinema. Okay.
All right. So now that Bridget is actually back, hi, everyone. My name is Jay.
My name is Bree.
As she fiddles on her phone.
I'm looking things up for the movie.
Okay.
I'm Evie.
I'm Bridget.
Do you have a quippy thing to say at the beginning of this time or no?
Well,
It is over.
Champagne is always celebrated for its excellence.
And this is Put It on the List,
Yes.
the film discussion podcast where each week, every other week, I still can't get the intro right. Every other week,
Yay!
someone picks a movie, and the next time we record, the next person has to pick a movie by either connection of cast or crew. Last time on Put It on the List, I made us watch Killers of the Flower Moon, which is a fantastic movie.
That was heavy.
And Bree decided to finally use one of our wild cards. Ding, ding,
Wild
ding, ding,
card,
ding, 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 ding.
That's right, and that's why this time I had all of us watch
That's
the
what,
Triplets of
Bree
Belleville by
says
Sylvain
when she wants to
Chauvet. Not Chauvet. Sylvain Chomet, his 2003 animated film, and it's interesting. The reason I wanted to watch this was the last time I saw it, I was a teenager. It was one of those like we got this in the mail-in Netflix. In my day, we used to mail in the Netflixes, as was the fashion at the time, and I hadn't seen this in a long time. I remembered it being kind of a fascinating little animated film, and I was like, all right, I want to revisit it.
For sure. Bridget,
And,
what were you trying to chime in
While I was introducing the movie.
I was just gonna say, Bree says wild card bitches when she wants to betray her friends.
I wouldn't classify Triplets of Belleville as a betrayal.
Yeah, I feel like the other time she has said that, you're extrapolating that to like this, which I don't feel like is warranted. And I say that as the person who was
watches
betrayed.
this knows I'm a VTuber.
Watches this? You mean listens to this?
Yes.
This is not a...
I see audio, okay? I've got that thing.
Synesthesia?
Synesthesia.
There you go. This is going to be a great episode.
It's going to be amazing. It's going to be very fun.
But before we get into it,
yes.
ladies, I got some icebreaker questions for us.
Fantastic.
Whoa, let's go.
All right. Majority of them, Owen, dear friend. Friend of the podcast.
Friend of the show.
Constant content supplier, Owen, IRL.
That or we have a lot of listeners named Owen, which is very possible.
And also we have one from Cybird, another former question asker. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions.
Ooh.
What do you want first? An actual question or a joke question?
Let's start with a joke question, then go to actual towards us actually talking about the movie.
Okay, for
butter
sure.
things up. You know?
Well, Bree, now that you've recently seen the movie Alien for the first time, you can answer this one. Owen asks, is the xenomorph standard form sexy?
Standard form being before the tiny mouth comes out?
No, I think Owen means like the classic xenomorph, like the normal alien-ass alien.
Yeah, no pred alien or like, you know, comes out of a dog or whatever. Like
Prometheus alien.
I mean, if you take out like the fact that it has the very long cockroach head, it is in form pretty hot. Like it looks like some black latex shit. It looks very like kind of skin suit, plug suit kind of thing. I do have an appreciation for space themed kind of, you know, like weird humanoid monsters. And I do be a monster fucker. So you know what? I see it there. I believe with the right conditioning, under the right light, after watching the right movie and a good meal, I could see fucking one.
All right, then.
Anyway, what were you pointing at?
Oh, could you hand me my water?
Oh, yes. There's nothing in it.
Shit. While I'm filling up my water, do either of you have answers?
The Prometheus alien is called a decon, by the way. It is not actually alien.
I was going to say, is that the balloon-headed one with the little eyes, or like, you know, the stereotypical an alien, or what is that?
No, that's what happens when an engineer gets fucked by a starfish.
Oh, I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'll take your word on
maybe
it.
one day you will, depending on where things go.
Is that a threat or an invitation?
That's an invitation.
Hot. All right. Evie?
It's not for me, but I get it.
Sure. Right, like you're like, I see even if it's not for you, you're like, I see the sexy. I get, you know.
You get the vision.
Yeah,
I'm open-minded.
It's like, you know, and that was part of Giger's whole thing, right? Like, it's threatening sexuality. Yeah.
And you know, I like to think that like the being able to see beauty in everything. I like to believe that people who are like born a cis man who see a hot guy, you know, I know the mask thing is ignore it, but in reality they're looking like, even if you don't want to fuck that guy, you got to be like, you know what though, like, you know, that's where the terminology, I believe, no homo sapien came from, where it's just like, yeah, no, hey, you know what, I'd fuck that alien, but you know, it's not for me, but like, I get it, I get why, you know, maybe that's why.
I mean, the alien's
the understanding,
bisexual, so...
Yeah, you gotta see the hotness in it, even if it's not for you. You don't have to be like, oh, I want to fuck this. You can just be like, yeah, I can see why someone would want to fuck this. And that's fine. That's fine. I love people being open-minded enough to admit that. So that's a beautiful thing.
For sure.
Cool.
All right. I basically agree with Evie. Like, I can see the vision. It's not for me. Like, that is not a monster that I think is hot.
What'd that little mouth do, though?
Well, chomp your brain. That's what it do.
Yeah.
Oh, whoops.
Chomp your brain, or, you know, chomp your brain. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, brain me a little bit. I'll take some brain. Let's go.
It'll get some brain.
Anyway.
Next, we have another comment. This is more of a comment from Owen. Owen says, Bridget, my question about Spielberg's philosophy on war movies was not a request for foot fetish movie recommendations. If I want to see foot fetish movies, I'll look at blue mark checkmark replies on Twitter. Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Got him.
Yeah, why was your first instinct in that moment, Bridget, to go to foot fetish? I've forgotten why that was the case for you.
It's too far gone for me to remember.
I guess that's a fair point.
Reaching out that far was quite a feat. Anyway.
And I guess I can make this next one the last one.
Okay.
It's gonna also be from Owen, so we'll have one from Owen and one from Cybird next time. But for this one, it's kind of a two-parter. Comment and then question. Owen says, I was at the self-checkout and nearly dropped my shopping in shock hearing Bree said she wanted to get into Ruby. One of the staff asked if I was okay because I must have looked so distraught. I meant to include a question with the last ask, but I was so distracted thinking about Ruby that I forgot. Have you ever been at the cinema and walked out of a movie before it was over? I haven't, but I did fall asleep during Batman Begins because I was so bored.
Oh, man.
I have an answer to this one, and it's the only answer I have. When I was very young, in the year of, I guess it probably, it was either 2001 and 2002. So I was like 11 or something at the time. I went to the movie theaters to see a little flick by the name of Master of Disguise. And my dad took me there to see it with me. And we sat through basically that whole movie. Me even being as young as 11 years old, neither of us laughing at all during that fucking movie. The only thing that made me laugh during that movie was the fact that the villain of it had like IBS and would basically just fart randomly throughout the entirety of it.
Farts are timeless humor.
That was the easy like make me chuckle thing.
Sure.
But literally we were like in the last leg of the movie, and like I basically just turned to my dad and said like, this isn't good. We should leave. Like the 11-year-old had to be like, nah, I'm not feeling this. let's fucking get out of here.
11-year-old Jay, like valuing her time, like, you know, at a young age, like it's you love to see it.
It has stayed true through all my years.
I think that in my entire life, though, I have seen some real stink bombs of films. For me personally, I'm more a sunken cost fallacy person where I'm like, I spent the money, I'm gonna sit here, and every part of this that sucks and never gets better, I can at least complain honestly about why it sucks. And then Bridget leaves mid-recording. And so, you know, for me, but here's the thing, too, is, like, I usually fall asleep during movies, but it's not the boring ones. I usually fall asleep during films that are bombastic and loud. I remember as a teenager or a child or whatever it was, I went to go see whatever year it was that came out, but the Powerpuff Girls movie, anything with explosions or anything with lasers or anything where everything's just like, or Space Wars or shit, I always black the fuck out, and I've gotten better about that later in life, but I have that kind of ADHD where when your mind is overloaded, you get like, your mind shuts down and you fall asleep. I remember I was like shaken up by a friend because I was snoring during one of the like prequel trilogy of Star Wars. And they were just like, hey, wake up, you're snoring. And then I was like, oh, there's a bunch of clones. What's up? Okay, it's over? Cool. Like, I don't know. But, like, no matter how exciting and loud and intense a film is, that can occasionally put me out. But I will sit and soberly watch the thing that I paid for just so I can be entirely mad that I paid to see it. You know, because at the very end of the day, it's content. You know, at the very end of the day, I can have a nuanced critique of why something sucks. And that can at least be a conversation starter. You know what I mean?
Could not be me. Could never be me.
Like, you're admitting that you lost. If you give it your money and you go to see it and it
ain't a competition!
And you go to see it and it sucks, and you're just like, well, now that I leave the theater, I've already come here and given my time and I've lost this, and you're like, man...
Yeah, that's the thing, Bree. They already have my money. Like, it doesn't matter. There is no win-lose state. The closest thing to a win-lose state in that scenario for me is just being like, do I feel like I have wasted my time even more so by sticking with this? That's why I just don't tend to be like a sunk cost fallacy person, because I'm just like, no, if I spend more time with this, then I've fucking wasted even more time.
That is fair, I guess. Yeah. It's a tough one, but I think I'm just so susceptible to that. In ways that the more I analyze it, the more I want to like work on that aspect of me. Learn to leave things alone completely.
Bridget,
the win state is you getting a refund.
can you do that?
I don't know. I've never done it.
Yeah, I feel like getting a refund at a movie theater is like, I don't want to say scumbag behavior, but that's like, you gotta be like really customer service pilled to like go see a movie and then demand to get your money back because like it wasn't what you wanted to see.
Being a white woman is like the constant balance for me between wondering what I can get away with and being afraid of becoming a Karen for that. And I'm too afraid of being a bitch because I've worked in service my whole life. I never want to be that person who goes to the underpaid person and goes, I didn't like this, give my money back. You know, I'm not going to be that person. I just can't be. It can't be me. In that case, that's my word. No.
I feel like, you know, in the modern era, cinemas are not going to like... They're not going to give you your money back just because you watched something that sucked. Like, it's going to have to be like... You know,
like a swarm of flies in the theater, which is a real thing that has happened, where there's just an entire swarm of gnats in front of the fucking...
Or
I would demand it for that.
Yeah, something would have had to go wrong with actually showing the movie.
The gnats fly towards you and inflict bleed.
I was actually given one time, like everyone in the theater was given a pass for a free movie, like whatever movie they want to see afterward, because the screening of Sweeney Todd was interrupted 5 times by the drugged out projectionist. Like, it kept falling out of balance and going to the, like, we're working on it screen, and it just kept fucking it all up. And that's like, that was the only time I really got, like, a refund for a shitty show, but that's because... I don't remember if the movie was any good. It was musical theater, so it probably wasn't. But the idea being like, you know, you got this, something had to happen to fuck it up. Like you say, the gnat thing or that. Like, the actual experience for what it's meant to be was still interrupted.
Speaking of musicals, I have not, I haven't walked out of a movie. There have been a couple ones where, like, I went, my dad took us to see the Steve Martin, Queen Latifah vehicle Bringing Down the House, and he was scandalized by its content, and he threatened to have us leave the theater, but we stayed through the end for that one. And
wait, what in the film Bringing Down the House, starring Steve Martin and Queen Latifah, was so scandalous that he threatened?
There was like comedic humping going on, like where like someone was bouncing on top of somebody else, and you're just like, this is too suggestive for children. We need to get out of here. Like,
I guess that's fair. You were a teenager at the time.
Yeah, like...
I feel like if you're a teenager, comedic humping is already kind of like in your repertoire.
I have a younger,
like,
I have a younger sister.
Like, oh my god, it's
comedic humping is in fucking Uncle Buck.
Well, Evie mentioned a key fact in here, which is that she has a younger sister as well. So that probably would have impacted that
Still,
decision.
the moment you see an unsupervised dog, this is all pretty demystified.
I mean, kids don't know what the fuck a dog is doing when it like starts humping things. They don't!
If they go to elementary school and talk with the other kids there, they do. That or I just grew up with a bunch of like really fucked up kids, and that's honestly more likely from what I hear of other people's school
I think
experience.
that's more likely.
My public schools were all like, people were using some terminologies I wouldn't know what it actually meant until I was
we're gonna get too off track.
The other thing is
ne'er-do-wells.
Yeah.
My dad and I, much later, went to go see the film Rock of Ages, and at some point in the film, my dad like leaned over to me and said, "This sucks," and I was just like, "Yeah, it does suck." It's just like I had to. I was the one who wanted to go see it, so I had to apologize to him and be like, "Yeah, I'm sorry." Just
that was a bad decision on my part.
This one's on me.
What film was that again?
It's the jukebox musical starring Tom Cruise, and I think Jennifer Lawrence was in there. Like, the whole thing is just like, it's about, you know, a bunch of 80s music, and, you know, Tom Cruise sings Wanted Dead or Alive. And also, I Want to Know What Love Is into Malin Ackerman's butt, which is like it's a very silly movie. Like, someday, if we go down the violence path, that might be one of the ones I bust out. But yeah, it was bad, and we sat through it, but it sucks. Not a good movie.
Yeah.
Wow.
It took
that sounds like shit.
It took you till saying Tom Cruise for me to realize that this is not, in fact, School of Rock.
No, it's not School of Rock.
Yeah, School of Rock is...
School of Rock, much better
I guess
movie.
a decent movie. Yeah, it's a Richard Linklater movie, so it's probably not bad, at the very least.
That was like early Mila Kunis, right?
School of Rock? No.
Yeah.
I don't think she's in that movie.
Wasn't she like the little girl?
No, you're thinking
School of
you're
Rock was
thinking
like
like
2000s.
What's her name from
Miranda Cosgrove.
Yeah, Miranda
right?
Cosgrove.
That's it. Yeah, there's a big difference. Okay. I don't know names. I know faces. That's all I've got.
Bridget, do you have an answer?
I mean, I think you know one of them at the very least. I didn't walk out of it, but my sister was so disgusted with Kung Pao that she took us out of the movie theater.
Oh, that's funny.
Leaving high cinema.
It's gonna happen eventually. That's gonna be the one that I play at some point, and all of you are gonna be like, I don't fucking get it, Jay.
I've seen that movie.
Bye-bye.
Yeah,
I know.
I liked Kung Pao back in the day.
But yeah, I wasn't the one
I
who...
like it a lot.
Who, you know... All I'm saying is the second you pick Kung Pao, I'm picking Ninja Terminator next. Anyways,
we don't have to do this. Like, we don't have to do this yet.
No.
but
Anyways, do you have one that you walked out of, though?
like, no. Like, even if a movie is, like, not fully jiving with me, I just... sit and watch it. Like, the only other thing I can think of, I didn't walk out of it, but I fell asleep during the first Star Wars prequel because my grandma wanted to see it.
I feel like falling asleep can kind of count as, like, effectively walking out of a movie.
You're mentally walking out of it.
Yeah.
So in a way, then we all have.
Yeah.
Okay.
What was that movie
right.
we watched the other day, like, either the last month or the month before, where I was, like, trying to stay awake?
I think, I don't know if we know, I don't know if it may be that you were struggling to stay awake and none of us noticed.
Yeah.
No, there were, I know that I noticed it because I, like, even commented towards her, like, are you staying awake, hon? Oh, no, it wasn't a movie. We were watching the first episode of Twin Peaks.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and you were, like, starting to doze in the back half, and I had to be like, Bridget?
That's okay. I was too. I can't follow it. Like, what that man is trying to parody is so well parodied that it's just as boring as soap operas are, and I can't, it's too long.
So, when I originally speak, I have shown Eevee Gundam, original Gundam, the compilation movies, and Shaw's Counterattack. The first time I watched those compilation movies, I fell asleep multiple times when I was younger.
Yeah, I could see it because they're all like a few hours long, aren't they? Like 3 hours.
Not 3 hours.
Oh,
It's like,
They're all 2 and change, right?
yeah, they're like 2.
change. Yeah, but when you're younger, I could see that being more of a deterrence.
Back when I was
like
getting them
2.5
on
hours.
Netflix DVD.
Oh. All right.
What are DVDs?
They're like HD DVDs.
They're like laser discs, but
Oh.
smaller.
The HD DVDs, those are like Betamax, right? Those things that like tried to
they're like
exist, but they didn't.
They're like a VHS tape, but on a disc. Like you took a VHS tape and you smushed
You know
it down.
UMDs
Oh, okay.
for the PSP? They're kind of like
Oh
that,
yeah, the
except bigger.
UMDs. I had Grandma's Boy on that. Yeah, you want to talk about a bad film?
It's like a cassette tape, but for video.
Okay, I
Yeah.
got you.
You know,
Okay.
hit clips. It's like
Yo, no, I never had them, but I knew people who
Yeah.
did.
It's like an MP3, but in physical form.
And like an OGG Vorbis file of a very small, like low bit rate. Yeah.
How long can we keep this
It's a
bit
lot
going?
like
It's an OGG Vorbis file.
video.
Well, it's like sound,
You
but
ever
on a
had one of
computer.
those GBA games that are just a movie.
real
Like the
media
2-pack.
files.
You know how like on the Game Boy camera, like you would flip the thing around and you would look around your room and you would see that like full motion like video like through a filter?
Yeah.
What if they like took the filter off of that, took a recording of that screen and put it onto a audio CD, except the audio CD would generate video and audio.
I've always wanted
Bree
to
would
make
have
a
known
horror
this when she
game
played
out of
terrible
that.
9/11 and it shows the Twin Tower attacks on the Game Boy Color.
It's like when you go to a drive-in, but you don't have to get into your car.
Okay. I see you.
And scene.
All
Okay.
right. That was a good run. Good run, girls. All right.
Anyways, Bree, introduce us to our goddamn movie.
Hey, right, the movie we watched.
You let this bit go on too
Okay.
long, and Bridget is walking
Bridget's
away from
leaving
the
again.
recording
Jesus
again.
fucking
Damn it.
Christ. Sylvain Chauvet's 2003 animated film, The Triplets of Belleville. As I mentioned earlier, watched it as a teenager, was curious how it aged. And you know what? I know that, like, you know, it sounds like Evie did not care as much for it. I know we've talked a little bit about it, and, like, you know, not everyone loved it. I gotta be real. I didn't love it as much as I did initially either. I do still think it's good, and I have a lot to say about it, but it was a fun rewatch. However, I wouldn't say I'm so married to it that, like, any negating feelings toward it are going to hurt me any. It's like, it's a much more pessimistic film than I actually remembered.
It's let's say that's maybe one of the reasons why it didn't as much click with me, but go ahead and give us a general overview of the movie.
So the film, interestingly enough, a very internationally sort of produced film, was produced by companies through like the BBC and like Belgium and stuff like that. Like there's a lot of hands in this that you don't traditionally see, more so from here, where it's like, you know, the different little hands on it, different little they had a really strong I believe it was actually Chaumet said that he didn't want this to be.
What's a general overview of the plot?
What's the movie?
Do we have to?
Yes.
Oh, okay, right. Sorry. I'm trying to set the stage.
Well, you can do the plot synopsis
Okay,
and
fine.
set the stage.
We'll start over. The Triplets of Belleville. Okay, anyway, this is an animated film, not a lot of words, but it has some words. The movie opens up on our movie's namesake, the Triplets of Belleville, in an old recording. The three of them singing gals in the prime of their career, who appear to be stars of a predominantly vaudevillian light cabaret sort of situation. What are you doing, Jay?
A basic plot synopsis. What?
I'll tell you what I'm gonna do.
What are you gonna do?
it. I have trouble breaking this into simplistic terms.
Okay, this is a movie that is about the relationship between a grandma and her grandson. The grandson who wants to be a cyclist. Him, you know, trying to compete in the Tour de France, gets kidnapped by the French mafia to like be involved in some like underground gambling, and the journey of the grandma trying to rescue her kidnapped grandson. That is what the Triplets of Belleville is about.
Cool, neat. So that being the case, the movie opens up on
Okay,
the movie's
no.
name.
Now you can go into setting the scene.
The Triplets of Belleville, three singing gals in the prime of their career, who appear to be stars of a predominantly vaudevillian and light cabaret sort of situation. And this portion of the film is animated in the style of like an old Fletcher film situation.
It's very rubber
Betty Boop,
hose.
if you will. Yeah, very rubber hose. Like,
to the point that, not to interrupt you, but to the point that when you go through the rest of the movie and how it seems to maybe have a bone to pick with this current state of Western animation being primarily run by Disney, it strikes me as Chaumet kind of being like, man, remember when you used to like let cartoons do weird shit?
Yeah.
like we didn't just fall into like these like set blueprints for how these animated features work.
And that kind of falls into also like the bit I was getting a little too into earlier, which is just like he didn't want to go through the like the kind of the cheaper sort of like this is where America gets all of their animation work outsourced to. He went with places in like Belgium and you know, the BBC and et cetera like that.
If you want to now, you feel free to talk about the production of it.
No, yeah. But that's the thing. He, you know, we will get into it. Like, put a pin in it. He has things to say about some Western animation, which will be very, very on the nose, on the mouse's nose, let's say, in the future here as we talk about this. But he was very much as I did some research into it, really very into the intricacies and the weirdness and just the, as you say, doing more with animation. It was very, very particular to the detail in which he puts into it. Even if you look at this and see, like, yeah, you know, this is kind of a very ugly animated film. It kind of shows, like, some, you know, just really dreary scenarios, and it has some things to say about people. But it's, in a way,
sucks.
well, that's the thing. It's like, what if something like Klasky Chupo had, like, a really good animation budget? What if you could take that ugly and really get it moving?
What if you were able to make the... So, how do you all feel about it? Do we feel like we need to do like an actual beat by beat plot thing on this? Like,
I did initially, but what I'm thinking is I'm probably going to cut it down a little bit shorter than what I was going to get into, because we're already falling so off track here. So we start off seeing this old-timey animation of them. You get the idea. Point is, this is an A movie that, you know, the main character's Champion, is the name of the boy there, and the older granny Sousa are watching this little show on their tiny little TV in her house, and so basically,
let's highlight a line that she says to probably one of the only lines in the movie, where she turns to the kid and is saying like, "Hey, Is the movie over? Tell Grandma when the movie is over." Like, kind of being
is
like...
Is the movie over?
Yeah.
Tell me.
Just trying to engage with the kid, because...
This kid is so out of it.
The champion is, like, very extremely silent protagonist. Like, he basically doesn't say anything throughout the entire film.
Yeah, I don't think he actually has... he has one line of dialogue, I think.
Yeah, that's at the very end.
So he's just very like, you know, I am sad. I want a lollipop, mommy. I'm sad. But he's just very, very, very just kind of morose looking kid.
And it's really and those scenes. The thing that I will preface like all the criticism that me and Evie and probably Bridget will be like laying on this movie as we get further into it. All those criticisms aside, at the very least, the film does care enough about, like, its core, like, main cast. The grandma, Champion, and, like, the triplets. There's actually, like, a level of care there where, like, you can kind of buy into that relationship. And you, like, get to see that a bit as you get the progression of, like, his childhood, where, like, she's just trying to get like something out of this kid. Like she's like, he seems to be fascinated with this movie. What if I try to engage with him on this movie?
Yeah. They flip to like footage of a piano and like someone's playing the piano because like the movie was interrupted.
Yeah.
So, and then you see like, this is where you begin to see the hand animation in this movie, which is intricate. I mean,
the animation in this film is fucking fantastic.
Yeah. Just like, the hand animations alone, how realistic the hands are and their lankiness, it would make Shintaro Kago blush, which if you don't know, do not Google that name at work. For the love of God.
Yeah, don't do that. Well, let's take a step back and take a look at like Sylvain Chomet seems to be very obsessed with like pre-50s like pop culture.
Yeah.
And like the type of stuff that would be shown back in those days, because in both the triplet section and even in that scene where like the pianist is playing, what are all the different references you have? You have what's her Who's the cabaret person that you like mentioned as we were watching?
Oh, right, yeah, no, I mean, if you want us to, I mean, we're going to get a little beat by beat back and forth here, but yeah, during that, like, Fletcher Films ass animation portion of the movie that they're initially watching, you have Josephine Baker. I don't know where to start on Josephine Baker. I don't even know where I'm allowed to have an opinion on Josephine Baker, but that was an American-born French singer and dancer actress who was very well known. She was actually the first black woman to star in a major motion picture, which to my research tells me it's the 1927 silent film Siren of the Tropics. Given the name, I don't want to look into that and find out how that was handled, but, you know, good for her. And notably one of the biggest headliners for a cabaret music hall known as the Folies Bergère. I have a little background reading into this, being that I've worked in a couple of vaudevillian-style cabaret shows back in my hometown, so I've read into this a little bit. But she's doing a bit that she's very known for here in this animation, which was understandably a very controversial number, being that her entire outfit that for her dance that she did was only a beaded necklace and a short skirt of artificial bananas. You know, and all the people watching her in this and the animation, they're hooting and hollering and they turn into monkeys and they attack the stage and start eating her skirt and they chase her off. You know, you see some guitar playing from the band
Django Reinhardt.
Django Reinhardt's there with his
famous jazz guitarist,
yes,
from back in the day, who like specifically was like missing the majority of his fingers on his on one of his hands. So the fact that he was able to play that way he did was mind-blowing, to say the least. The pianist that we see in that scene is basically Glenn Gould, who is like a 20th century like pianist who like he would play like that. He would be hunched over like with just his fingers like beating at the piano, like doing all this crazy shit.
Okay, so the movie that like interrupts the other movie after they lose that feed like is still like him referencing people.
Yeah,
that's fascinating.
That is still him reference.
Wow.
Which it's a weird thing to grapple with anytime someone is kind of romanticizing that early 20th century pop culture. Like you kind of hinted at a little bit, like in trying to talk about Simone Baker, but also you have the layer of like kind of romanticizing like Fleischer cartoons specifically, which you look at those old ass cartoons, specifically Fleischer, but also a lot of old Rubber Hose
also
stuff.
It's Josephine Baker.
My apologies. But how those old Rubber Hose things are unfortunately in a lot of ways tied to like minstrel shows and things of that nature.
They don't date well.
And because of that, and you know, Sylvain Chomet very much being a white French guy, you see that romanticization and like part of your brain starts to be like,
yeah, where you're just like,
yeah, I don't know how I feel about that.
It's like,
I got the fly.
It's not, because I think the thing with Josephine Baker specifically is just like, it is just like it is not positioned in any particular way. It is just like recreated in the show.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate to like, aside from all the men turning into monkeys, you know, that is basically just what her bit was. It isn't like exaggerated in any way. It's just that's what she did.
The part where the guys turn into monkeys, like that's part of the art, but you know, otherwise.
But yeah, and then there's also, who's the tap dancer supposed
Grace
to be
Kelly.
again? I always forget. Grace Kelly.
Yeah, that's it.
But yeah, so
his shoes eat him. Yeah, they come to life and then they just devour him and like pull him off stage.
Yeah. But yeah, so you have all those references. Then, you know, you go into the childhood. She, before even the piano, she like gets a dog. Is just like, oh, let me get you a pet.
Well, no, actually, it starts with the piano.
It starts with the piano.
Trying to teach him that. And then she's like, maybe a dog. Because she wants her son to be happy. She's like, well, maybe her grandson. It's like, maybe a dog. So you open up a box, little puppy pops out. And for a minute, he's like, oh, a puppy. And she's all happy. It immediately fades to a scene where you just see that he is now sulking in bed again. But next to a dog that is now sulking. We have a dog net positive. All right. But still, he's sad. You know, she tries giving him like a little train set. And he's kind of like a little bit engaging with that train set, and the train runs over the dog's tail. Put a pin in that. This dog hates trains now. That's going to be...
he's going to be dedicated to hating those fucking trains.
That is the dog's main character trait. He does not like trains. So keep that in mind.
Well,
but this continues.
The second one, he had 2 character traits. Hates trains. 2, he's fat. Like that's
he's very fat.
Oh, and let's say put a pin in that. You know, the character trait of being fat.
Yes. This, like, we can't all be French and smoking cigarettes all the time, okay? Like, sometimes people, we have different bodies.
And then eventually she's, like, reading the newspaper, and she sees, like, that, one of the sports pages got cut out.
Oh, yeah, that happens during the train thing. That's, like, a little bit of foreshadowing. Where
exactly.
It's like, what the fuck?
And she's cleaning up his room, making the bed, finds, like, a book under his bed that has, like, a collage, essentially, of, like, cyclists.
Yeah, clippings and like little like articles and
Thomas
pictures.
The Tank Engine. Oh my!
Yeah, but just like a whole lot of wonderful little bicycle pictures, and she's like, "Oh,
okay, I'll get this motherfucker a tricycle, and maybe he'll finally smile."
And we see the first genuine smile from him as he wordlessly claps and goes, like
the first
so
and like
happy.
only because like after the time skip, this motherfucker is still miserable.
No,
like. For a movie about dedication and the importance of that, it still doesn't seem like it really makes him happy in the end. That kind of goes into why this movie strikes me as so fucking cynical and pessimistic. Pessimistic.
I think this movie's very pessimistic.
Some of it, like, I feel like there's a lot, and I'll say more of this later, but there's a lot of things that point toward the ideas of, dedication, but also some of it's aspirational, and I think some of it is almost Sisyphusian. And it's kind of interesting.
I'll push back on that, like, a bit later. Sure. Like, we don't have to get into it right now, but I don't know if I fully buy into the Sisyphean side of things. But, so you eventually get a time skip,
Sure.
Now he is older, like, not too old, but old enough that he can compete in competitive racing.
Well, here's the thing, before any of that happens, though, like, she is, like, she's training him. Like, Grandma is keeping up with this guy biking up hills and late at night in the rain and just, like, blowing a whistle, trying to push him along and coach him.
Her new means of communication, blowing the whistle.
After the time skip, like, we learned that the champion has become, like, he has dedicated himself to becoming a professional, like, cyclist, and like
he lost. Sorry, go ahead.
Like, and like it is his entire existence. Like, from the moment he gets up to like when he goes to sleep, like he is just training for
training to eat to train, sleeping to train. Like, it's all about him being on that bicycle.
He transformed to a little boy into Horseman.
No, here's the thing. All of the weight on his body went into his nose, and he becomes this lanky boss from like a Souls game.
All of his like body weight went into his nose
and his calves.
And his fucking calves.
Yeah, just his calves. He skipped upper leg day. He has these pumpkins.
Camel legs.
Yeah.
It is genuinely disgusting, especially when like after, he goes through the training montage and everything, him and Grandma get home and, she's just doing all of these different like things to like work out his muscles. Like, she's taken an egg beater to his calves, so you're just hearing
using
all this
vacuum,
like squelching sounds like of his muscles.
What you have.
It's so gross.
We didn't all have sharper image foot massagers, okay? We were working off a little bit.
Taking a lawnmower to his back.
Yeah.
Sports medicine has come a long way in the past 70 years,
It has.
Yeah.
But I also think they were kind of working with what they had. Like, she obviously had like her probably financial limitations, just her and the boy living together.
But also during that like montage, you see like the house has been overcome by like modernity, because like literally there's like a bit of a spire to the house for its second floor. Yeah. And literally a train track is basically an elevated train track is running through to the point that like the spire is like now leaning over.
Yeah.
So the dog every half hour is going up there and barking at the train because that's what's the association that's been drilled into the dog's head.
And it's so sad because you see in that time skip how like the land has sunken in the house to kind of get out of the way of this fucking train line running right next to their house. It also moves from like day to night there to just kind of show the decrepitly like kind of grown over area where it's just kind of like this,
which is another
peaceful area,
another weird red flag in my brain where it's just like, don't get me wrong, like this, I get some of the reject modernity stuff, but like when I start considering what we just talked about a couple minutes ago with like the romanticizing that olden pop culture and like very much kind of like demonizing like the new like architectural things, like taking over the old like pastures, like more idyllic like village and farm like life stuff that you see happen there.
Yeah.
Like it's still, it sets off weird red flags.
That's
for me,
fair.
Personally,
like 100%.
Like is that caricature Josephine Baker like the only black person in this movie?
yeah,
I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there might be some background.
Well, Django Reinhardt was also
That's true too. Yeah.
Well,
but still,
are the figures in the flashback the only black people in the movie?
I think so.
And not even really like characters, you know, they're cameos.
Yeah. Caricatures, more so.
well,
So, again,
things to pick apart here. Yes.
small little notches.
Also, I want to note, I don't know how that dog is that fat. It should be built like a brick shit oven.
It goes up and down the stairs all day. That's all it does.
Up and down the stairs like every fucking hour.
That's true.
But
To
you
market
see
that.
how much food you got to consider. Dogs, if the amount of food that they're eating does not even out with the amount of exercise they're getting, they're gonna get fat.
I mean,
That's
he gets
just how it
Champion's
goes.
leftovers though.
Yeah,
Champion has a lot of leftovers.
I guess for a dog, it really overfills the bowl.
Yeah.
I suppose, yeah.
dogs shouldn't be eating people food as much as
No,
that is
especially
people
not
food.
with the fish bones in.
Yeah,
Sousa is a dubious cook. Dubious food would be the way to appreciate what she cooks for Champion, but it gets him on that bike and gets it going.
Try
That's
the
what
gray
matters.
stuff. It's delicious.
It's
Yeah, before
basically
G
just-
Fuel, we had dubious food.
It's basically just mushed up fish.
Yeah.
Like,
Mushed up fish and potatoes. It's like it's breen or like green, gray. It's pretty. It's
but
not.
no,
pretty.
yeah. So they get back and he's getting his muscles worked out, and literally he sits on a scale as he eats. And after he eats a certain amount, like an alarm goes off, and that basically, because he's taking on that body weight of eating.
Yeah.
As soon as that alarm rings, he dumps the food
Fork
out for
down.
the dog
Yeah.
and stops eating.
Everything is optimized to his career and wanting to be a cyclist.
And his
That's-
fucking wind down routine. This is the only other time that he smiles. His wind down routine is when he smiles, is when he gets on like his weird makeshift cycle, like stationary cycle that powers the jukebox that plays like the music that they're listening to at the end of the night. Like that's the only other time he smiles, because he's just kind of like, yeah, this is the stuff for me. This is what I like.
Things powered by cycles will come back.
Yes, it will.
Yes, it will.
So like, and the thing, you know, this is like it is not directly connected, but I feel like it's adjacent to the thing we're going to talk about later with how this movie looks at fat people. Like the whole thing where he is like, where it is like, oh, you can only have so much body weight, like when you eat, you know, and then you have to like, and like, then you have to cut off your intake for the day. Just like, that's not That's not how that works. Yeah, this is a cartoon, but that's not how that works. You need, like, if you're an athlete, you need to have you need to consume calories.
Yeah, I understand the endurance training concept, but like that's not you would burn out. Like you wouldn't gain anything from not eating enough food.
Now, if there are any professional cyclists listening to this that want to say contrary to that, please feel free to chime in at cohost.org/put it on the list.
If you needed to cut weight, you would dehydrate yourself. That's how that goes.
That's true, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Boxing form.
But yeah, you get that, falls asleep. We cut to, him finally competing in the Tour de France. And, he's like basically in the back of the pack.
Yeah, sure.
He's not in dead ass last place, but pretty darn close.
Slow and steady, just keeping up.
I don't think it's supposed to be a message about like slow and steady.
I'm not saying a message. I'm just saying that's how he's keeping on. Like he's not losing steam. Like he's still going at it this early on, but like he's not leading the pack, but he's continuing.
I don't necessarily think that's how... What were you going to say?
Yeah, like, I think the thing about this is, like... I think... And I will give this... I think it's an interesting direction for the movie to go in, where it's like, we get all this stuff about how hard he's training, how it takes up his entire life. They got this whole routine, like, that's just dedicated to getting this guy to become a professional cyclist, and, like, it happens, and it turns out he's not very fucking good at it. Like... it doesn't amount to him like being even remotely competitive in the actual Tour de France.
And that was the thing that I was going to bring up, because like that is maybe the closest thing to like a kernel of a thing that I can really latch onto in this movie, like on that theme of dedication, is because specifically this film says that like, no, you are going to fail at the thing that you are passionate about. But the important thing is that you are passionate about it and you are dedicated to it, because that ends up being what you get into at like the very end of the movie, which, to like kind of jump ahead a little bit, there's this whole chase sequence where they're like basically cycling on this machine that like, is projecting like the like POV footage of the Tour de France like thing, and he's not even necessarily looking to win anything. He is just dedicated. He's just doing he is simply doing the fucking thing because he was wanting to do the fucking thing, or at the very least stuck in the motion so much of doing the fucking thing.
Yeah, he likes riding the bike.
Yeah, if we're to take this as just like a big like metaphor for like the animation industry and the craft of animation, then like what this movie is like, what's the idea that it's putting forward here is that it's like you can work in this craft and in this art, and like you can even be like self-taught in a sense, but if you're like not in the pack, you're in a position to be exploited. Which is what happens here.
100%.
I didn't even consider that side of it. 100%.
Absolutely fair.
Especially once you start getting into like, how much this movie kind of fucking hates Disney as an entity. You start considering the idea of like, oh, this movie is speaking on exploitation of like workers, specifically those in like animation and the like absolutely, totally. Very good for you, DB. Thank you for that one. We'll get into it later, but this movie is just like, I am so of two minds on it.
Sure. So anyway, I'm glad we're having this conversation. There are things I hadn't even considered popping up, and I'm loving this. Well, anyway, during the Tour de France, of course, the boy gets picked up and thrown into a van by some shadowy figures.
He doesn't even get thrown into a van. He is cycling in they pick up like 2 people before him who have effectively given up. Like,
yeah, they dropped out.
They are fucking
gone. They're like dying, like unable to breathe from like the endurance.
It's not even it's not even like given up. Like they've collapsed. Like they've broken down on the side of the road.
Those 2 other men are somehow even more horse looking than
than he is. But no, he's still continuing on, and he sees the van and is like, yeah, I guess I'm okay calling it here. And he willingly goes into the van. Like, he does not get thrown into it. That's the thing that makes his, like, general arc over the course of the film, especially considering what Evie just said about this movie kind of low-key being about exploiting animators. Like, so interesting, because you're essentially taking someone who has that dedication, but maybe just isn't in a place where they can really fully take advantage of that dedication. And, you know, you say, like, I mean, you could get in this van instead. And they're like, yeah, I guess I'll get in the van.
I could see that. And, like, it's supposed to be, like, kind of like a medical van, too. Like, they paid it to look like the one that is initially being kind of ridden on by, the person driving Sousa and the dog. They were on that, but that, they flatten the tires on that and fuck up their spare, and then they drive off from, a truck within the back of another truck to be that truck that he's like, yeah, okay, this is the I'm giving up medical van. But then, of course, he's hijacked and utilized for, mob betting.
Yeah, more or less.
So that's what's going on there. So he is then shipped overseas and chasing after him.
He's shipped overseas.
Yes,
in the context of the film, it's basically still France, I think.
I think so.
I think it's supposed to be France, but it's like...
It's America.
It's America.
Yeah. They have the Statue of Liberty there.
Yeah.
And not only do they
obese,
more like Statue of Liberty
cheeseburger. Yeah.
Okay, we need to just fucking talk about this now, because there's not too much that happens in there. So, he gets kidnapped. Grandma can tell that he got kidnapped, tries to hunt him down, gets a paddle boat, follows the fucking ship that he gets taken off of. They arrive in America. Not only is the Statue of Liberty obese, she is holding up like a fucking like
ice cream cone.
The flame of the flame of the torch is a fucking ice cream cone, and I think she's like,
I thought it was a burger. I forgot.
She might be holding a burger in the part that's supposed to be holding like the
tablets.
The tablets. Yeah. But
this is America.
Literally, in America, every single like interstitial character in the background is fucking obese.
Like extremely obese.
This movie hates fat people.
Yeah, straight up.
Like, it's... I don't know. As someone that is a relatively slim person in a group of people who, are... I imagine at least a little bit more conscious about their weight in the view of society and shit. I don't feel like I have much of a space to talk about this. So if any of y'all would like to,
I mean, that's the thing. Like, I'm somewhat thin now, but like I grew up like medically obese due to being put on pills as a kid. I faced the torment of growing up overweight, and I don't know as much what that's like in adult pattern, how you're treated in society, but I imagine it still sucks ass.
Yeah.
But like I still have some feelings about that. I love that they hate America, but for some of the reasons that they shoehorn in, it's like you're missing the fucking, like, you don't need to make it about this. You know what I mean?
That's literally the only thing it's about.
Yeah.
Like, there's not too much else in
it's just like, haha, they're
Americans
fat.
Are fat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't
like,
it funny
it's a
that they're
lot.
fat?
Like, you could chalk it up to just being like lazy and telling a joke about how America sucks, but like we see it in like the first scene where like literally the first thing that happens is like you see a clip of like a bunch of fat people coming out of a car. Like, it's just and then
It's all like
the one guy wedged between the lady's ass,
like
the fat woman's ass cheeks.
Yeah, this movie hates fat people, but if you're a fat woman, watch the hell out, because they like extra hate you. Like, it's and it's like you could, and we could say hate, like, which in like in terms that's how that's how it feels, but like it is specifically expressed in just like a casual disdain that is just like it's permeated through the whole thing. Like you see it constantly.
It's a bit much.
And I think that for me is the part that makes it feel so mean-spirited, is that it's just like fully digging into the casual fat phobia that exists in all society. Like if it had just been outright like showing a bunch of like close-ups of like disgusting looking overweight people or something like that, like really harping on that, I could more like just offhandedly like throw it aside and be like, fuck this shit.
Yeah.
But it's just it sucks.
It's weird. It's really weird. It's in a way that I didn't even like initially notice when I first saw it when I was younger. I didn't really collect on that other than, you know, I saw the Statue of Liberty and went, fuck America. But like I don't think I fully clicked into it just because like the illustrations of the people in France weren't necessarily good either. Like they weren't necessarily like
nobody looks good in this.
No one looks good
except
in this
for like the main characters, basically.
Well,
yeah, everyone in this movie is some kind of weird homunculus. But like I think like the distinction is that like during the Tour de France scenes where like you see all the people like who are watching the Tour de France, like you see all different kinds of people. Like there's it's not a uniform deformity, basically. Like you see so many like that's it, you see such a different such a big variety of people like represented there, and in a way to the way that like I feel like it makes that sort of grotesque art style really work. But then like all of that falls off as soon as they go to the America section, where just like every single ancillary character is just the same sort of rounded, like, you know, extremely obese person. And it's just like y'all are constraining yourselves. You have made your movie less interesting to look at because you're just like, you can't get over this thing you have with fat people. Like,
and like
weird.
It would be shittier if they were more direct about it, but even then it would at least make more sense as to what they're saying. Because again, like Tone Deaf Little Me, when I first saw this, I didn't even make that connection just because everyone was drawn so freakish. Mm-hmm. I was just like, okay, this is a weird animator making everyone look like fucking crazy. So I didn't really connect that it gets so much more, you know, shitty on the other end of it. I'm following the plot at this point, trying to keep up with it, you know, as an ADHD person who was trying to watch a film with mostly no words. And you know, I see it a lot more now. Like, yes, obviously this is like, hey, you thought that we were ugly and now let's make fun of these guys. And they do that purely by like weight.
Like you go into the fucking like diner scene
and
literally there's basically no open space in the diner because every character that isn't the grandma in the diner is so fat that they are taking up all of the screen space of the diner.
Even the woman working there. So it's like...
Like, and I think, like, you know, in retrospect, like, I feel like it, you know, makes sense to kind of treat yourself with kindness in terms of how you saw it at the time. Because, like, I went back and read, like, just, like, is this a thing that is, like, is this a thing where, like, that is talked about, like, that is talked about with this movie? Is that, like, is it like a topic that this movie is associated with? And like, not really, because like I went back and looked at like a lot of the reviews from the time, and just like nobody talked about it, nobody cared. Like, and just like how we talk about like the position that fat people are, the position of fat people in society like has changed so much since this movie has come out, that it's like I feel like it's like it makes sense to not to have it be something that you only notice on a more recent rewatch, because like it's just not something that people cared about. broadly speaking.
I did finally do what you've said you do sometimes and looked into like what do some people talk about, and like you were saying, a lot of the reviews for this, like you say, they don't even get into that so much. I mean, anything more than like, the Statue of Liberty, haha. But that's the end of it, if it's even addressed, is that they're still following what the film is at least trying to do outside of that, and a lot of people, it's just, it goes right past them.
Yeah.
It is kind of interesting how that is.
Yeah. I don't know if there's anything else we want to say about that topic in particular.
We can move on. I think we've very much hammered that out.
I guess
it sucks and it took me out of the movie, but it's also, it is so pervasive that it's like, what are you going to say?
It's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the only additional thing is I would say that's just more kind of goes even deeper into like just how like pessimistic and cynical this movie is, that like it just views all Americans as these fat, obese, like hog bodies waddling around on the street.
Yeah, sort of like not even like being cognizant of the area of like their surroundings, just sort of like wandering around like cattle, because nobody like who is fat in the America scenes ever like has an impact on the scene that they're in. Like,
and listen, as someone who occasionally...
Except for like one Boy Scout.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that kid. That kid is so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, but...
As someone who occasionally has to shop at a Whole Foods, I can tell you don't have to be fat to have no regard for any of the space you're taking.
See,
up.
that part is... That is something that I can lend credence to.
Yeah, that part is like... That is normal.
Yeah, Americans are often rude and don't know how much space they're taking up, but you don't have to be taking up a lot of space yourself to be taking up too much space and being in the way. Most Americans are in the way. The point is that, we move on to like, Sousa has no money. She can't eat. She doesn't have much going on here. So she's just kind of sitting around, like kind of using... One thing we didn't mention, she tunes the spokes for the bike that Champ uses by playing like a little tuning fork and like listening to the tones that it makes. So she's just kind of sitting there playing that with some sticks, just kind of getting a little bit of rhythm going. And it attracts the attention of the Dark Souls trio. You can see the little life bar pop up in front of it. The Triplets of Belleville are back from the old animation they were watching. Like they are here now, and they're these like older, tall, like domineering ladies. But they start kind of grooving to what Sousa's playing, and they're just like, all right.
In what I would say is the best scene in the movie.
It's pretty great.
Like that initial scene with them showing up and dancing is the fucking best.
And they start kind of singing the song that, they were doing in the initial like movie they were watching. And she doesn't realize this until she's like invited into their house that, that's them. But they're kind of grooving.
You mean their apartment that's basically inside of a brothel?
Yeah.
More or less.
Of course.
Not to take away from living in that kind of environment. It's just, they're walking through the hallways of the apartment and you just see women in like very lacy lingerie, like...
You see an open, like, kind of communal toilet there that has a shit in it that looks like Mickey Mouse's head. It's pretty on the nose.
Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah. Mr. Chomet, did you possibly at some point try to integrate yourself into the Disney machine and get very alienated from it?
Or did you just hate them in general, which is totally okay?
Brie was talking before, but... During that time, Disney did outsource a lot of things to France. So
funny that. I wonder if that had any impact in this end product that we consumed here.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, you get some nice like home life with the triplets and Sousa in the apartment, and then you get what I'm pretty sure is Bree's favorite scene from the movie.
We need to get into it. Yeah, like, it seems like they're about to start cutting, like they're getting ready, like they're home, one of them's like brushing their hair. They're not quite getting ready for bed yet, but they're probably hungry. One of them needs to start cooking, so she goes out to fish. Like, she actually just has, like, one of them has a stool tied to her butt. Like, she's ready to, like, okay, let's go out here.
She's got a net on hand. Like, she's ready to go. She goes down to the...
You see some frogs, these really fucked up frogs in this water. You're like, what the hell's going on with this water, right? So she sits down, and then she pulls out of her sock one of those, like, handled grenades, activates it.
To which Evie, as we're watching this movie with her for the first time, responds, what?
Excuse me?
I was not expecting the grenade. Yeah.
No.
Like, I think the only other people to do it were the one in the YouTube video by a punk band called Electric Eel Shock, a Japanese punk band. It referred to that as bombing fishing. That's punk rock fishing, we call that.
Yeah.
So, cracks that thing, tosses it in, waits patiently, holding out a net, and then just... a bunch of frogs rain down into the net, and she walks off with them. A couple of stragglers, very fucked up frogs, waddle back into the water and make their way back in. But most of them carried on in.
Yes, Bridget.
These look less like frogs and more like the fucking basilisks from
Dark Souls.
They really do. I love it. These little freaks.
Except there's one particular frog in the bunch that has basically survived and just kind of hangs out in the apartment for a bit, basically looking like it's probably been blinded and very much maimed, but the dog is not a fan of that. You know what else the dog isn't a fan of?
The train.
There's a train next to this apartment that runs
They're shorter, but
even more frequently than the other one. But yeah, you know, the grandma's is living with them and is trying to, like, help out just because her dedication seems to be kind of that of, like, a busybody, someone who needs to, like, constantly be moving and doing some kind of task around the house.
Yeah, especially being taken in. She's like, I don't just want to be, like, a layabout. Let me help out with, like, some vacuuming. And they're like, no. They, like, push her away from the vacuum. Like, no, you don't need to clean.
And part of you thinks at first, like, oh, you know, she's their guest. Yeah. They don't... But then she tries to put some stuff into the fridge, and they say, like, no, don't put that, and, like, start shining it down, and you're like, what the fuck? She tries to read a newspaper, and they're like, no,
and they fold that up and set it up over.
Yeah.
And they kind of let her crash out on the couch. It's set up with some sheets and some pillows, you know. So she and the dog, you know, the dog plants its butt right in her face, and they, you know, much as it did with Champion, you know, and they are just kind of out for the night.
And, like, interstitially with that, you're getting a view into what's happening with Champion. You see, like, the mobsters who have, like, got tied together, like, with the, like, mob boss, like, kind of just sitting in the center of them as,
they're
like,
all
the
one
headpiece.
ominous shape.
Yeah, they're like... One of my favorite things about the movie are the two, like, basically square mobsters who meld into each other, basically.
It's so good, because you first see that during the race when they're, like, ominously driving up in the car. Like, they become one shape. Like, it's amazing. Just that choice. I love that particular aesthetic choice with them.
But yeah, what's effectively happened is the mobsters have rigged up the three bikers, including Champion, that they have to essentially be, like, gambling pieces for the rest of the mob to, like, you know, bet on. So they've rigged up this machine, or this weird little mouse guy has rigged up a machine.
Literally speaks and mouse squeaks. And
that basically just has stationary bikes on it, and the stationary bikes control those, like, little old boardwalk game, like, cardboard cutout things that move along a line if you, like, squirt a water gun at it.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Matterhorn on The Price is Right, where, like, there's a little guy.
Thank you.
Yeah, just, like, kind of, like, move forward if they're, like, you know, getting ahead in the race. And so they're all, you know, this is like a betting rig thing. It's like, you know, these guys keep on this projection biking on it, and, you know, as they fall out, or if they don't keep up,
well,
you know, then they will just say they don't win for now.
Yeah, but, you know, you don't quite see that part until a little bit later.
No, yeah, right now they're just hooked up to wine bottle IVs, and they're, like, getting them.
Which, that part's weird.
Yeah.
I don't know what to make of that, because
that isn't there later.
Yeah,
I think the idea is like they're using those wine bottles to keep them hydrated and alive until it's time to actually like run them to death, you know?
I suppose so. That makes sense. Just get them ready and prime them, yeah.
But yeah, so, you know, you get a peek into the machinery that's being built and what those guys are going to be doing. And then, you know, you get to what is effectively the cabaret scene where, you know, the mobster is attending it and the triplets are performing on stage. And you find out what those things that they were so, like, very, like, touch and go with in the apartment are for.
They're actually doing like a smaller gig like in this, like it's not a cabaret thing, but it's more like a music show they're putting on, like, you know, they are by name.
No, it's a cabaret club.
Is it?
Yes, if you look at the sign, it is a cabaret club.
But smaller place, little like fancy restaurant.
They're just stoned. They're
the Blue Man Group.
Yeah, they're using the vacuum to create suction on their hands, plucking the like little nettle tongs, making up the
using the ruffling of the newspaper as like a percussion, and then the grandma comes on stage and she's playing like the fucking bicycle spokes.
And this again kind of leans into what you were saying about the like your dedication can have you like, you know, used and spit out, as they very much were and left into the dregs they're living in now, despite their, you know, their glory years. But they're still making music. They still love to create music. And
the triplets are maybe the one character group, but they basically function as a single character.
Sure.
That like really bring home that idea of like, no, the dedication is the thing that like makes you happy. Like that thing that you are doing, that you are passionate about, that is the thing that brings you joy. Because the triplets, they're still smiling. They still are like able to enjoy themselves.
The triplets are having a great time throughout
but they're
this
still
movie.
having fun. Like old lady goals, to be sure. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Just absolute mad women, but like they still do what they love and they're still keeping up. And it's amazing
they always
to
carry
see.
hand grenades.
Yeah, that too. It's good to have on hand too.
Put a pin in it.
Yeah.
All right. But anyways, you have those two storylines finally converge back into each other at that point, because the grandma's there with the triplets where the mobsters are. The dog smells, you know, the champion on the mobsters and like kind of like barks at them, and the mobsters are ready to put that dog down. And like the weird lengthy waiter guy, who's maybe my favorite disgusting interstitial character in this movie, just because he's weird, like almost
he's very
Snake
boneless.
Man. Yeah.
It's one of the things with the movie where in the beginning, you know, it has the rubber hose, but he's the only one who really still has those cartoon properties where he's like arching back and like...
No, yeah, he's like literally boneless, like the way that Evie was describing. He is like arching back, lurching forward, but it's always like a perfect curve. Like there's no sign of like a spine in that man. But yeah, he has to come over and be like, no, please don't kill the dog.
Please don't shoot a dog in our club.
Yeah, here, we got all these fine cigars and wine for you. Just don't do it. Please don't do it.
Like, okay, so this is not related to the current point or anything, but it's just something I noticed throughout this movie. And it's like there's a whole thing with like people as animals. Like you have, you know, the guys turning into monkeys at the very beginning. You have the guy who looks like a dog on the train. You got the other two bicyclists who are basically horses. Like they are drawn like horses. They make horse noises, like, and like they are treated like horses by like the mafia essentially. And then you have like this little mouse guy who is the most of a character out of any of these listed, but like he is still like he communicates entirely through mouse noises. Like he looks like a mouse. And it's like I realize like it kind of ties into the thing that this movie does, where it is like largely without dialogue. Like there's a number of dialogue lines, like, you know, you can count them on your hand, right? And I realize like, oh, like kind of a part of a way that they pull this off is like by using these sort of like characterization shortcuts to like it's less for the thing with the monkeys, because like that's just a sight gag, like whatever, but for the rest of it, it's like, you know, these guys are horses because like that's the sort of like that's kind of what the mafia is doing with the cyclists in general, and like where we're having them make horse noises in order to communicate to you that you don't have to worry about them like being actual characters in the movie, like they're just kind of here. But yeah, I it's kind of like it weirded me out, because like anytime that you're like directly like associating like human beings with animals, like it's a little bit but it does serve like I can at least admit like it serves a mechanical function here in terms of the screenwriting.
It goes into what you were saying, where like I'm very much of two minds of this movie, where like from like a technical standpoint, like this movie ticks like a lot of the boxes that I would require to like look at a movie and be like, yeah, that's a good fucking movie there. Where like you have that, it's great fucking animation. That movie looks fucking fantastic. It works with its shortcomings in those like choices of like not using dialogue, dehumanizing the characters into literal animals to do those shortcuts, and also like just having these thematic ideas like about dedication, and like the importance being that you even have that passion in the first place. But it
jumbles it up. There's something in the way.
It doesn't even so much jumble it up. It's just what it ultimately, it's less than the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
Is like the way that I would describe this. My biggest issue with this movie is like it doesn't all gel together in a way that really brings something out of me.
I think I'm there with you. Like I think I think at the end of the day, like, and we should talk about the rest of the movie before we get to final thoughts or anything, but I think I agree.
Sure. For sure. Yeah. What were you guys say, Bridget?
I was just gonna comment that it's interesting because despite this movie being a mostly hand-drawn thing, it still employs a lot of CG.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It does.
Yes, it definitely does. For like pretty much any time there's some kind of like camera motion, like going around some kind of action, like that seems to be
machinery,
where it really ends up.
A lot of machinery. I noticed some of the background shots are kind of...
There's a car chase that we'll talk about later that has a lot of CG in it.
Mm-hmm. There's like the dog's daydreams, like when the dog is dreaming, falling asleep, like you'll see like these weird little black and white, like little animations where like sometimes he's on like a train and that's 3D. You've got like some little weird tiny little things.
So because the dog is at the bar, smells the champion on the mobsters and everything, they're finally able to get a lead. You know, the grandma sees them and is like, I fucking know those motherfuckers there. And, you know, they track them down to the location where we finally see the mechanism in action, where, you know, the cyclists going at their stationary bikes is both like controlling those little like Matterhorn figures, as well as continuing a projection of a POV of the Tour de France route. So, and we keep getting these like nice like real close-up head-on shots of the champion, like just looking real fucking intent as he's cycling on that thing.
His nose eclipsing the shot every few frames.
Which I don't know that I fully believe the Sisyphean read of the movie, because the thing with like Camus' idea of like the myth of Sisyphus is like you need to find joy in the absurdity of life, even when it is beating you down. It does not feel like the cyclist is finding joy in that absurdity. Like, again, he's just always dour. He's
fixed. He's like, he's in it.
But there's no joy there, though. And that is the part for me that doesn't fully make a Sisyphean specific.
Most people stuck in a Sisyphusian nightmare of their own making to continue to wake up and decide not to die, to reference, Camus' whole bit, is like, they're not always smiling, it's just you get up, you do the thing. It's the action I'm
sorry, go ahead.
I'm just saying he wouldn't be doing it if he didn't derive happiness from it in some regard. So I'm reading that as it being like, that's just him going, this situation sucks, but I'm gonna keep pedaling. It's just kind of my take there.
For sure. What were you gonna say, Evie?
Well, I feel like the movie doesn't show us him, like, the movie makes the decision to not show us him, like, looking at all, like, satisfied or really just, like, reacting to his conditions at all. Like,
he got resting bitch face. Like,
yeah, but like,
I guess that's fair.
The problem with a movie is that, especially with a movie with no dialogue in it, is that we have to see it. They have to show us, like, and they're not doing that.
Yeah, and I think that might get to the core of where that disconnect is because we get so little expression of that internality that those thematic ideas don't really get to be fully fleshed out. Like, it is a movie that is almost there. It just needed a bit more from the characters themselves. Like, that is the double-edged sword of, not having dialogue, of being French, where it's just like all very matter of fact, like it's all on its face with everything that it presents. Like, I don't know that I would describe this as a happy movie.
No.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, no, like, this is not a joy of animation.
Oh, no.
It's not. I don't even know if I would say that this is an emotional movie. Like, I feel like emotions just don't play into this movie, and that is the biggest fault with it.
I will say, I forgot how the movie ended, and it ends pretty abruptly with not a whole lot of resolution other than, the people who've been assholes, and been the protagonist, the
Is this how the movie ends? Yeah, that's how the movie ends.
Yeah, they're done in, but that's it.
But I guess before we get all the way to the end, we gotta go to... So basically, we see that the mobsters, anytime a cyclist is basically dipping out of the race from exhaustion,
they fall over.
Dude just pulls out a gun and fucking kills them.
Just smokes them.
And, the grandma and the triplets, set up a scheme where they, take the place of the mousy guy so they can fiddle with the machinery and cut it loose from its stationary position. They kind of get found out. They almost get gunned down, but one of the triplets has that grenade on them.
I keep that thing on me.
Took the words out of my mouth. Throws it into the crowd of mobsters, and they make their extremely slow escape, where they are on that machinery just slowly pedaling out of the building. They break through the wall of it somehow, and you have all of these fucking mobsters chasing after them in cars, shooting guns, and they keep getting undone in really silly ways. Probably my favorite one is the guy who's leaning out the side of the window, and then the car tips over and just falls down a staircase.
Backward,
that was pretty good. I like gravity.
But yeah, it's the way that they make turns around corners is the triplet will grab a
stop sign.
Stop sign or a light pole and just hold on to it and make it take that curve. It's very silly.
Yeah, like this is one of those it's very silly and like it's pretty fun, but it's just like it's too long. It's just like I felt like I was definitely just like all right, I get it. Let's like after like the fourth like car that is like undone in a very silly way, it is just like, all right, that's funny. Let's wrap it up. Let's get this done.
I'll say I feel like the punchlines of each one getting undone kind of keep, because I know exactly what you're saying there. Like between each punchline, my brain starts being like, okay, wrap it up. We get it. It's the
sorry.
It's
they're still pedaling. They're still like turning by grabbing the stop sign. Like,
but then each way a car gets undone is extremely funny. It's like, okay, you earned my impatience a little bit there.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you
like
for that.
When he's reaching out and it falls down the stairs, and you can tell these two men have broken their necks severely, probably, and then the car explodes.
Yeah,
it's just like
there's like
yeah, no, they're dead.
There's
they're
the
dead.
final stretch where they're going up the hill and can like barely make it up the hill, and the car is like chasing after them, and the thing that undoes the car is like it's too backloaded, so it falls back and just like cartwheels backwards over and over again. Like that part is also very funny, but again, because it's, I think
it feels like they had 5 like different ways of like having one of these cars get blown up, and like couldn't bear to get rid of any of them.
Yeah, and so after all of those happen, like there is one last one. They think they've gotten away, but they're on the bridge now, and they keep on going.
That main mobster trio.
They're in one now. They're coming after them, and Sousa's pissed and just done with it. So she gets up off of the little contraption, just stands in front of the car barreling at her, and just sticks her foot out and trips the car, sending it off of the bridge into the furnace of a boat.
The detail to note about Sousa that we never really talked about is she specifically has like a bum leg.
She has like a club foot.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's the term for it. But yeah, so one of her shoes like has a much longer heel to it. She sticks that out.
Yeah, she sticks like the platform heel that she wears. And clubfoot may be an insensitive way to put that, and I apologize if so, but I don't know otherwise.
But yeah, trips the car, sends it over the bridge into the furnace of a passing ship.
I just want to say, like, opposite to Evie, this was the part of the movie, to quote Brie in her own fucking movie, the part where they finally threw a fucking pie, and is actually goofy.
But the thing is, even then, because the movie has such a lack of emotion to it, you can't even really find a lot of the joy. Like that's why I can understand Evie kind of like doing the get on with it motion during that whole like car chase, because even in the pie throwing scene, it's still like very kind of flat in everything that it's doing. Like, I can laugh at it, but
you're saying the banana cream pie needed more cream.
Kind of. Sure. Like, it needed a little bit something to zhuzh it up.
Yeah, what if they were still throwing pies after 15 minutes? Like, it's like...
Yeah. But yeah, so not only do they fall into the furnace of a boat, them falling into the furnace of a boat sends a bunch of fucking fireworks out.
Oh yeah, shoots them out with fireworks and French colors. It just goes... Psh,
which also, we didn't talk about how, like, with the little mousy guy, they find a photo of him, like, at Disney World, where he's wearing a button that says sucker on it, and he clearly has, like, a Mickey Mouse, like, mascot, like, whole like standing next to him.
Yeah, he's got the ears on too, the hat.
But then like also them leaving the town as, you know, those fireworks are going off makes me think of like Disneyland, like fireworks festivals and stuff like that. Like there's all so many little digs at it that, like, even as someone who is like a noted unenthusiast for Disney products, I see the disdain this movie has for it, and I'm like, okay, I get it. Don't make this your whole personality, man.
That's
like...
Was this around when Euro Disney was trying to happen?
I think Euro Disney was a lot earlier. Like it was
my
like
90s.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. That
in
whole
some ways,
concept
it
of
might have been a
basically calling it
reaction
like
to that.
Money Disney, and in translation and trying to move that out there, it did not go well. It led to like terrorist attacks because they were like, get out of here. But it was there's a very real and very understandable hatred for Disney in Europe. So it's
so they cycle out of the town, and then you kind of pull back and see that he has been watching like this film of these events play out, and he is much older, probably at the very least like in around the age of the grandma,
still sitting on a biscuits box like when he was a child.
It's still in the same house, like it's
same
in
house,
the same
on a
fucking
box.
house. And he turns over to his side and says, "It's over, grandma." Just kind of
and she's no longer there. There's like a wine bottle there.
Yeah. You hear her voice echoing just like in almost in memory, just like, is it over? Is the film over?
It's not her voice echoing. It's him saying it's over.
Well, you hear her voice does kind of get superimposed on there. Of just her going like, is the film over? That as you go back to that does happen.
I don't think I noticed that.
Oh, it does. And then he leans over just with that thought in his mind, and he just goes, it's over.
Yeah.
And then it closes on an end card that just says,
for my parents. And
it's a weird ending.
It's not a weird ending.
It doesn't. The thing is, like, there's not a lot of development or conclusion in anything. It's a lot of things that happen. And that's where I especially see a lot of the stronger criticism on this is like, for how much every other review I saw was focusing in on a lot of what I got as well, the dedication, despite being spit out by the powers, and the levels you got to that be these systems kicking you down and you still doing what you love. It's a weird narrative. That's kind of, it seems aimless at times. It does genuinely have this weird kind of, I guess it ends here? Okay. That's how I read it.
It doesn't strike... Again, a lot of it just comes down to, I think it feels sudden because it just doesn't do a good enough job of really fleshing out those thematic ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like if it had pulled more out of, the rest of us, like, over the course of the film,
sure,
that ending would work. Like, that is an ending that I think can absolutely work. I think sudden endings can be totally fine for movies and television. One of my favorite endings of all time is the ending of, like, The Sopranos show.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I think that's a phenomenal fucking ending.
I agree.
And that literally cuts it off before you get anything.
Yeah. And you could derive from that, from the show itself.
But that ends up being the thing.
Yeah, it's dubious, but...
It having that abrupt ending is the point.
Yeah.
And that is the reason why it doesn't feel like... Why it feels so abrupt in this movie. Because it doesn't really give you anything to feed into that ending in and of itself. Evie? Did you have a thing to say about that?
Yeah, and it's just like, I don't know if this is going to reveal if I'm going to get exposed as being like a Philistine here, but it's just like I didn't who has an arc in this movie? Like, there's like, I feel like Champion doesn't really have an arc.
No.
Like, I feel like the grandma does some stuff, but like we don't really like. I don't get an indication of like what she as a character, like how is she as a character changing as a result of this whole endeavor? Like she's kind of not. She's kind of the same person as she went in.
That frog has an arc when the train runs over it.
Yeah,
yeah.
An arc upward, off by a small degree, and then back downward. Yeah.
Like there's a narrative arc to the movie, but there's no character arc that feeds into that and like works in conjunction.
Nothing transformative to the characters that has any real like directional drive for me. That I'm like, yeah, no, I gotta say, I'm really glad that I picked this film to revisit this, because we have had so much more collectively to say about this than I thought we would.
I'm surprised as well.
I've kind of come to the similar kind of conclusion that I'm like, there's a lot here that could work, that could be something that I feel is what's in the way of it is like a lack of character development, or the like, we get it, you hate Disney, but it's like, how much of that is just in the way of like, can you just tell a story? Like, can you... Look, there's you can hate pieces Disney. That could be put together into something that I feel there's missed opportunities. Go
Bridget, ahead. You can hate Disney, but...
You can hate Disney and then make The Secret of Nim.
Yeah, sure. Like, you can hate the fact that you're being... You can hate Disney or the fact that you're being bought out by Disney and make WALL-E.
That's true too.
Like,
what a fucking film! I
WALL-E,
got to sit down and watch.
That's a goddamn movie.
The first time
but that's besides
the dance scene. I cried.
No, yeah, like but also it's one of those movies that it feels like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, though.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if they had tried to do more proper, like, characterization in the way that we're thinking, then it takes away from the like ways that they were wanting to tell this story.
Yeah, sure. I think that's the thing, is like, I feel like the form here, like, is the thing more than the actual narrative of it. And I feel like there's a like, I feel like the especially like the ending dedication being to, like, you know, for his parents, like, there's a personal element to this that is like, maybe like there's a personal element of it, including like deeply held professional beefs that is just like I feel a little bad to dog on it from that perspective, but it still cashes out to a movie that, like, I was not totally into.
Yeah, I'm like, as somebody who, at least I feel, is very much into animation, know.
Yeah, I'm curious, Bridget, like, especially as the, like, major animation person between the four of us, this was your first time watching it. Like, how did you feel after seeing this, like, versus your expectations going into it?
I was honestly expecting it to be more goofy than it is. Like, I remember seeing the trailers for this and wanting to see it at the time. But overall, it's just, I don't know, just nothing really connected for me. Like, I'm the type of person who I can just enjoy animation if it's, like, interesting enough. But, like, it looks okay. In the same way as, like, I could probably rewatch the Rugrats movie and be like, wow, you really animated these awful character designs.
Yeah. So here's my question for you. Did you enjoy this movie more or less than X 1999?
I enjoyed X more.
Weeb.
Wait, I think I heard on the wind something from Evie as well. That might not have been included from an earlier recording. Evie,
it's tough. This movie has a lot more for me to chew on
That's what I'm saying.
But X was kind of cool.
Really?
It's like, don't get me wrong, it sucked, but it had some fun anime stuff going on in it. Like there was a lady inside of a computer. That's neat.
I'm glad I poked this bee's nest.
Badly
I gave them both like 3 stars.
Projected fucking mind attacks, and like just that nothing happens. It's like setting up to like, oh, it's X. Oh,
where I come down on the split with it. I feel like Triplets of Belleville is a better and more interesting movie. I would rather rewatch X because that movie is just like, it's just like, you know how most days I would rather watch Hot Fuzz than 12 Angry Men, but I recognize that 12 Angry Men is a better movie than Hot Fuzz. It has more to say.
All right, I vibe with the first part of it, and I'm gonna kindly disagree with the second half where you would I never want to watch X again. That's one of those, like, for my ADHD ass, I watch X and I'm like, this is the kind of bored that makes me wish I was dead. Like, there's nothing for me watching X personally. Like, oh my god, I can't. Like, this is just me personally.
Yeah, this movie's okay. I'll be honest, I was kind of bored in some of the spots.
Wow. I guess I feel like we're at final thoughts at this point.
Oh yeah, I feel like that's what we've been talking about.
Bree, let's do the more like official formal.
Sure.
Bree, what are your final thoughts on this movie?
Well, as I've said already, you know, this being a rewatch now to kind of evaluate after having seen some real cinema in the years since I've come to see this, you know, I have a lot more to pick out of it that I'm like, I have some pet peeves. I have some, like, I feel like I wish there had been more character development. You know, the pieces were there, as you said, to make a great film, and I feel like so much got in the way of it. There was a lack of particular character development or really desire to care for the characters that you would want to see in something like this. I similarly remembered this as being something like zanier in the way that I feel like, you know, Bridget was talking about, where it's like you expect a film like this to be woo, especially with the really cool music video you have done by M, the recording artist who did the credits music for this. You can find that music video. It's fun and it's dancey. And it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, you think it's going to be like, a goofy, fun cartoon movie, but it's so pessimistic, as you say, that like, despite all of the narratives in it where it's like, yes, watching it now, I get these similar readings to so many other people who break it apart, that like, yeah, it's about dedication. Yeah, it is about, like, you know, this like drive toward things that matter to you despite the systems chewing you up and spitting you out. But so much is in the way of it that I wish wasn't like that. I feel like I love the animation in it, and I love just kind of the craftsmanship in the world building. I like a lot of the choices, especially architecturally, and like how some of the things are illustrated. The mobsters, you know, who are the uniform beasts, the way that they draw the triplets, the way that they illustrate a lot of the backdrops, and a lot of how so much of these things are put onto, you know, the illustration is just so inspired and so unique. And so as a set piece, as watching a painting, I enjoy it. It's just a fun little thing to throw on, but I wish that there was more to chew on, really.
Yeah, for me, I would say it's both a movie that has a lot to chew on, but it's almost more of like a gamey, like, stuff to chew on, where like you don't really feel like it's working out your jaws, but what are you getting out of it necessarily?
It reminds me that I don't usually get cartilage in my fun.
Sure.
Like horse meat.
It's like,
yeah, exactly. Like that's my kind of general final thoughts on it, is I can understand why when this movie initially came out, it struck as much of a chord with people to the point that like it won Best Animated Picture the year it came out, didn't it?
I don't think it did.
Oh no, it was going against Spirited Away, but it was nominated with
it was
that movie
for sure,
which is noteworthy. Like the fact that
it was nominated for Best Original Song as well for the song. Yeah,
it's a good song.
So It's the kind of thing...
If you don't watch this film, look up M, just the letter M.
Listen to the song at least. You'll have a good time.
Belleville, whatever it's called. But
to get back to my thoughts on...
Sorry, go ahead.
I can understand why when this movie came out, like especially early 2000s,
sure.
Animation was so strongly tied to the Disney machine in the West. Like, that to have something that performed on the level that Triplets of Belleville did and had, like, was working with the ideas and the general, like, subject matter that it did, was able to, like, really gain as much notoriety as it did. And I think it's very much a movie that's a victim of age.
Yeah.
At this point, where, you know, we've gotten 2 decades away from it, and like animated movies have just, even in the West, come so far. Like we saw the golden age of Pixar like shortly after this movie came out, where you have these movies that are still like family friendly animated movies, but are dealing with more serious shit. Like Up is about like a old man whose fucking wife died. Like
their unrealized dreams as he's left alone in the beginning of the movie, and his wife dies. You have
Wall-E is about a mega corporation like destroying the planet and like
and conditioning people to just keep it that way. Like no need to look.
Yeah. And then you just have like television animation, the rise of like Japanese animation in popularity.
Anime was so important to any, like, you know, younger animation after that.
Into the Spider-Verse, which literally has allowed US studios, like, people actually like the fucking Puss in Boots movie, which is mind-boggling that that could even happen.
And not even just on a animation level, but that Puss in Boots movie like actually has a character arc to it that is like engaging beyond a like this is baby food type way. So like you can understand why like people who enjoyed animation were so fucking starved for anything that they saw Triplets of Belleville and were like, oh shit,
yeah,
this is what you can do with this medium. Fuck.
Yeah, and I feel like a thing that's worth mentioning, and like independent animation is like stronger than it's ever been, where like we live in a world where someone could like animate a whole ass movie by themselves and just throw it up on YouTube, and like potentially any from 2 to 1 million people can watch it. Like it is like this movie as a statement about the animation industry does like it maybe is like it is dated in that sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has a lot of that, like, rustic charm of hand-drawnness of, like, back in the, like, 101 Dalmatians era. Of, like, you can still see some of the sketches around the heads of the dogs. Like, that very... It has that warm hand-drawn nature that I think is probably what a lot of resonated with people at that time, too. Just that, man...
Anyways, Evie, final thoughts for you.
Yeah, I stand by a lot of what I've said over the past 2 hours, but like as like going back to the whole, you know, who's got an arc in this movie thing. I love when I'm giving myself the dumb guy voice based on a thing that I said like half an hour ago. Anyway, like this is like, as I've been kind of sitting here thinking about, like, this is not a movie like. This is not a character movie, right? This is a movie where like the form is the thing, and it is like it feels like a statement by a specific creator about the industry that they work in at a particular point in time, and their relationship to it, and it's obviously like through that person's individual lens, and I feel like as a piece of craft and as as a work of animation, I feel like it's very impressive, but it's also like from like the content of it is just like, oh, this feels like this isn't for me in a sense. Like it feels like this is so personal to, like, it does feel like a thing that is entirely like, it's a message from a specific creator into the world, and it's a world of 21 years ago. So it's kind of weird to revisit it now, but I do think that if you're someone who like is interested in taking a look at it, is interested in what the vibes were in animation at the turn of the century, and if you're able to kind of if you want to see some really incredible hand-drawn art or hand-drawn animation, like, I think this movie is worth watching, and obviously the song is good.
Yeah,
the song is great.
All right, and then moving on to Bridget, as you're the person who's got to be picking the next movie, what are your final thoughts?
It's okay.
Short and to the point.
I don't know.
Leave it to Bridget to cut through the bullshit.
For me, it's like, that's great. You made your personal statement, but it is also mired in a bunch of, like, other things that kind of take away from that statement.
To be fair, it really is. Like, yeah.
So, like, I feel like if it was very focused on the statement, it would have been a better movie. Because it's just kind of spread like peanut butter. And it's like, I mean, that statement is in there. However,
they could have taken more time
stuff.
Yeah.
It's diluted.
Yeah.
I had to sit here and talk through it over 2 hours in order to get to the point where I appreciated that part of it. Like,
but hey, I mean, that's kind of going back to my final thought. That's part of what I think I've been able to appreciate about it now, is that, like, it's a victim of the time that it came out in, but there's still things to, like, really pick apart and, like, analyze in there, and that's why people got so much out of it at its time.
I gotta say, at this moment of recording, this has probably been one of my favorite films to talk about, because there's been so much to pick apart.
I actually can agree with that. But that movie is now much like the Triplets in the past.
Yes. Because now we're moving on to the next film.
Bridget, did you have... What? It didn't sound like you had completely finished your thought on the movie.
Oh,
sorry.
I don't know. I prefer other directors in the movie.
What other directors in the movie do you prefer?
Director id.
Oh, director id.
Other movies where it's the director's id on the screen. Okay.
Gotcha.
I see.
Is that supposed to be a segue into what you're...
absolutely not. At least I don't think. I don't know.
All right. Well, Bridget, what do we got next on the docket?
Well, as you always know, it's hard for me to pick things. I thought about using my wild card, but I said no. We gotta keep it in the family. And so I could have gone to Millennium Actress, and I'm not.
Man, you should have gone to Millennium Actress.
It's such a good film.
It also connected to Hunchback and stuff, because remember I was telling you about French animators working on Disney projects.
Yeah.
It also connected to both of the other Looney Tunes movies, Space Jam and
Looney Tunes Back in Action.
Looney Tunes Back in Action. I might pick Looney Tunes Back in Action another time, but not this time.
All right.
Motherfucker.
Because you see, I am going to be the one who takes us to the rage cage. And pick a movie I've never seen. However, it stars Nicolas Cage. 'Cause we're fucking watching Mandy.
Oh, fuck yeah! Fuck yeah, we're watching Mandy. Let's fucking go.
Yeah,
What's the connection?
Two re-recording mixers worked on Triplets of Belleville and Mandy.
Hell yeah.
Wow.
So that's our next movie. I can't wait to see the Cheddar Goblin in action. That's all I know about the movie.
Wow.
Oh man.
Yeah, I'm going in.
Wait.
I'm going in
So wait. So you haven't seen it, Bridget hasn't seen. Have you seen it, Evie?
Oh yeah, I've seen Mandy. Yeah.
Okay. Cause you and me, Evie, we know.
Oh yeah.
That's a fucking movie.
Yeah, this is gonna be a very fun episode.
We're going in divided like a chocolate vanilla cookie. One of those like.
Yes, I was like, there's no way Jay is going to know what I'm actually picking.
Yeah, I would not. Well, I mean, if you were not going to use your wild card, this would have been a difficult one anyways, because it's so much like just French staff that me being too America pilled when it comes to cinema wouldn't have been able to like figure out where you were going to even try tying it to.
I greatly appreciate the route you went. That's a fascinating tie.
Yeah.
So it should be good.
Okay, well, we're in it. Finally, a Nicolas Cage movie.
All right, we're caging.
Hell yeah. Hell fucking yeah.
We went from French to Cajun. All right.
But with that in mind, yeah. I'm Jay.
I'm Bree.
I'm Evie.
I'm Bridget.
And this has been Put It On The List. Follow us on cohost.org/put it on the list. Send us in like questions over there. You can find us on YouTube at Wife City Productions on there. Like, comment, subscribe. You can find us on Spotify. Leave us a like there as well. Apparently you can comment on Spotify things too. So hey,
weird.
Do that if you want to say nice things about us, but don't do it if you don't want to say nice things about us.
We think we're pretty great,
and
but only
publicity
if you agree,
is good publicity, baby.
That's true, but
if you like us, feel free to leave a review or something on the place where you get your podcast. But if you don't like us, then don't bother.
Yeah,
you have better things to do with your life.
We're still starting off. We don't need the negative press.
Yeah, the negative press doesn't help until we're big. That's when you want the controversy. That's the good shit.
Yeah, that's when the things that Bree say can really come back to bite us, and then like.
Yeah.
Look, I'm saying, if you rate us 1 star and says this podcast is too gay, that's a 5-star.
That's
not. But please don't do that.
Yeah.
No.
Anyways, bye.
Bye.
What we view's connected by cast or crew, deciding the next film. That's the gist. Put it on the list.
Yeah, that was a good one.